Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening and welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. I'm Rob Pritchard and I'll be with you until around 6:30pm this evening. Coming up tonight. In football, St John's will be hoping to maintain their perfect start back in Manx football's top flight when they face Rushden United on Saturday as part of the latest round of local football fixtures. After their excellent FA Vars victory, FC Isle of Man will be hoping to taste victory again when they face Charnock Richard in the NWCFL Premier Division. In rugby, 2 tough trips to Manchester for the Manx sides in the English Leagues tomorrow, whilst there's a host of local matches to enjoy. And in hockey, the mixed season enters its 4th week with a big top-flight derby on the cards. That's all to come this evening. Well, let's get right into it. You heard me mention them before. St John's, they've had a perfect start to life back in the Canada Life Men's Premier League. They will have a tricky test to overcome this weekend if they want to maintain that perfect start as part of the usual round of fixtures coming up this Saturday. And to go through all of them, he's here as ever, Tony Mepham. Tony, good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Rob. Weather's not too bad. I know we've had a bit of rain today. I think tomorrow pitches will be fine and we'll have a full programme. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
It's hoping it was vile this morning and now look at it, absolutely glorious out there this evening just looking out the windows. Let's hope for a little more of that if we can.
Definitely.
OK, let's take a look at Saturday then. So all games kicking off at 2:30pm with 2 exceptions. We'll come to those in a little bit. We'll start with the Canada Life Men's Premier League and there are 6 games this weekend.
Yeah, 6 games, and now we're getting a good idea now, aren't we, of where possibly this league might go. And when you look at the one on the top, Union Mills against St George's. I watched St George's last week and 2-0 down after 24 minutes. I thought, wow, this is going to be a tough game for them. But they got themselves back into it before half-time. And that Johnny Myers penalty, making it 2-2, just settled the nerves a little bit. But then Ayr United in the second half did really well. And St George's didn't really have any answers to it, Rob, and they have been decimated. They've lost players to FC Isle of Man. They've also had 1 or 2 players who are injured and a couple who have not been able to make it this season so far. So against Union Mills, it's a good opportunity for Paul Guyver's men to try and get something away from them. Douglas Royal against Peel. Close game, I would expect it to be. Peel should start off as favourites, but Douglas Royal are littered with some very good under 18, now sort of a little bit older players. Quality is in there, and if Michael Fitzmaurice's team can get it together, then they could take those points away from Peel. St John's against Rushden. St John's, no Dean Leese, I believe, is not playing tomorrow, and he's a massive player for them. He's quick. I call him the Usain Bolt of football because he's so quick and he can play football as well. But with him not being there, I think Sam Brown knows that he's got to sort of pick his team a little bit different and try and get someone else to score the all-important goals. They're solid at the back. Will Penhorick hopefully will be recovered from injury. Sam Ingham's in there as well. So it should go a little bit maybe towards St John's, but Rushden really had a tough time this season so far, and languishing down in that bottom third, but they've still got enough quality in there, and I'm pretty certain that Nick Robinson's team now will be looking to see if they can get the maximum points away from St John's. Corinthians against Marown, 1 or 2 key players missing for Corinthians tomorrow. Adam Killip, the goalkeeper's missing. Cameron Lee's not playing, I believe, so it'll make it a little bit of a closer game, and I think David Brew's team have really got to find top drawer, I think, to beat them, because Corinthians are a strong unit even with these 1 or 2 players missing. Ramsey against Douglas High School Old Boys. As we've seen with Old Boys, they've lost a lot of quality this season. Ramsey, high flying, going well. I know they dropped points last week against Laxey, but they still did enough. It's a tough game against Laxey. And Ayr against Laxey. Impressed with the way Ayr came back last week, and I just think being champions for last year and now sort of wanting to retain it, it's going to be tough for them. No Sean Kelly, there's 1 or 2 other players not available, but I think Ayr will have enough just to take it away from Johnny Palmer's team, and that's Laxey.
Very well, let's have a quick rattle through the other divisions as well. Let's start with the DPS Limited Division 2 and 4 games this weekend. Yeah,
D&D against St Mary's. St Mary's tipped by most to be the champions at the end of the season in this league. So you've got to go for St Mary's to win. But D&D, they played a game recently, lost it, but there was a rule infringement in it by the opposition. So they've regained the points back up and it's lifted them in the league. And I think, 3rd or 4th at the moment. Douglas Athletic against Michael. Well, you have to go for Michael. Great form, and I don't know what Michael Corlett's doing down there with the coaching and everything, but he's getting the best out of them, and fair play to them, because it's one of them, isn't it? It's all trying to bring players in. I believe some of the under sort of 18 players from Peel have joined them, so it's made them a little bit stronger. So I'm going to go for Michael to win. Governors Athletic against Foxdale. This game's played at Colby. Governors haven't played too many games this season. 8-0 defeat recently. I'm going to go for Foxdale to win. And Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys against Colby. This is going to be a real big battle. But in current form, the Edge boys, Jordan and Oliver, I think they could be the difference, and that's why I'm going to go for Colby to take the points away from Youthy.
Very well. Then we go into the combination leagues. 5 games in Canada Life Combi 1.
Yeah, I think this is starting to get a picture now, and I think the one that you've got to look at is the second game in this. That's Russian against St John's. It's first against third. St John's have played a game less, so they're the champions of Combi 2 last season, so they're looking to see if they can win the combination 1 title this year, but I think it's going to be tough. Russian looking really strong, so I'm going to go for Russian to win. Peel against Douglas Royal, few aged players in there, but still of quality. I noticed Kevin Ballard and Gavin Gorn in there strutting their stuff, but I think Peel's young players will win that round against Corinthians. I'm going to go for Corinthians just. I know they've got 1 or 2 of the Masters players in there, but it'll make them a little bit stronger, I think, Corinthians. Old Boys against Ramsey. I have to go for Ramsey. Old Boys absolutely trounced 7 days ago. And Laxey against Ayr United. Laxey, I know 1 or 2 players short in this game as well, so I'm going to go for Ayr to win.
And rounding things off on Saturday, we've got 4 games in DPS Limited Combi 2. It's in this division, there are 2 different kick-off times in 2 of the games, aren't there?
Yeah, the one that we're looking at first, St Mary's against D&D. This kicks off at 1:45, purely to keep the pitch clear for FC Alaman. Now, they're not at home this week, it doesn't matter, but just we've left it the same so everyone gets used to that kick-off time, Rob, and there's no confusion. I'm going to go for St Mary's to win that. Pulrose against Jims. Pulrose, great win recently, and I'm going to go for Pulrose to continue that good run of form. Castletown against Maloo. You have to go for Maloo to win that, because Maloo are top of the table. Depends what Castletown have got in there. And Colby against Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys. I'm going to go for Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys to win.
Very well, then we move into Sunday and to the Canada Life Women's League. All games kicking off at 2 o'clock. 3 games there.
Yeah, 3 games, and the pitches should be fine. I know we've had rain today, but I think tonight's weather forecast and also tomorrow's looking good for them. So Corinthians against Maloo, you have to go for Corinthians to win. They haven't played many games this season so far. Peel against Onken. Onken are absolutely flying, aren't they? Scored plenty of goals against a young Onken side. Watched them last week. They battled well, but I'm going to go for Peel. And Douglas Royal against Castletown. Castletown couldn't field the team in the first game. I believe they only had 10 last week, so shorter players. Hopefully they're back in, but I think Douglas Royal have enough quality to take that victory.
Very well, and then last but certainly not least, we've got 2 games in the Masters football on Sunday.
Well, Laxey against Corinthians. Corinthians, the team that I go and watch. I think Corinthians did really well in the game recently where they battled with Governors Athletic, but I've got a sneaky feeling that Laxey might just have 1 or 2 jewels in the crown in there, Rob. Good players, so we'll see what the squad is like, but let's go for a draw in that. Governors Athletic against Peel. Governors Athletic, strong side, but Peel are always a team that you look out for at the end of the season to lift this title. They've won it 2 years on the bounce now, and I think this year they're one of the favourites as well. So I have to go for Peel to win, and that's a 3:40 kick-off at the Bowl.
Very well, those are your Manx football fixtures coming up this weekend. Let's turn quickly to FC Isle of Man. They'll be returning to league action this weekend when they travel to face Charnock Richard in the NWCFL Premier Division tomorrow. I mean, this weekend the Ravens, they'll be hoping to replicate the same quality they produced in the second qualifying round of the FA Vars at the Bowl last time out. That was last Saturday. A Chris Bass Jr. double and a close range finish from Sam Kane saw the Manx side earn a 3-1 win against Lower Breck. In the league, it's been a very tough run recently for the Ireland outfit. They've only won 1 of their last 7 league outings. They sit 17th out of 22 teams in the table after having played 11 games so far, with 10 points on the board. Their opponents this weekend, Charnock Richard, well, they're also going to be hoping to find a little more league consistency after they themselves have had a bit of a checkered start to their campaign. The Lancashire side are also on 10 points for the season, but sit in 15th because of their better goal difference, and they've also played 1 game less than FC Isle of Man as it stands. Charnock Richard's last league win actually came further back on the 16th of August, a narrow 3-2 victory over bottom of the table side Ashton Athletic, but since then they've earned an impressive 3-3 draw against second placed AFC Liverpool, and then just 4 days later they only narrowly lost 2-1 to high-flying Avro. So that game, Charnock Richard versus FC Isle of Man, takes place at Mossy Park this Saturday, kicking off at 3 p.m. Tony, we've got about 60 seconds here. How do FC Isle of Man replicate the winning performance they put in last weekend into this weekend.
Well, what a turnaround it was last week, Rob. It was a great performance right the way through the team. The only one you could sort of pick on is the goalkeeper, because the defence was so solid to stop the ball coming through to cause any problems. But I thought right the way through, Chris Bass was immense in that centre midfield, and there's no doubt about it. Tiernan Garvey, just turned 17 years of age. Superb display by him, and it was just really good. Lee Gale got injured, so he's probably not going to play. I haven't seen the squad yet for this week. But
he is out of the squad.
He's out of the squad.
The squad is in. Yep, that's on manxradio.com if you'd like to go and take a look as well. But Lee Gale is one of those.
Yeah, and Dan Simpson must be getting close to a return. I haven't seen if he's back in, but no Sean Doyle. But no, I thought the football last week was brilliant, Rob. So anyone out there just saying they might have took the foot off the pedal a little bit, they're back on it, and hopefully tomorrow they'll win when they play away from home.
Absolutely. We'll see. Tony, thanks very much again, and we'll be speaking to you tomorrow over on Saturday Sport Classified.
Certainly will.
Okay, we move on to rugby now, and two of the island sides competing in the English leagues will both be on separate trips to Manchester this weekend. Douglas, who are still looking to kickstart their Regional 2 North West campaign, they'll take on Wilmslow, whilst Vagabonds head to Duckenfield in the Counties 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire League. Locally, there's a couple of fixtures taking place across the different competitions. I caught up with Dave Christian today to get his thoughts on the weekend's action.
English Clubs Championship is probably the best place to start. Regional 2 North West, Douglas away at Wilmslow. Wilmslow used to be a pretty tough place to go and win, but over the last couple of seasons, they, like everyone else, have suffered a little bit post-COVID, and they've not had a brilliant start to the season. They've played 4, lost 4. Douglas have played 4, lost 4, so they have virtually identical playing records. The only difference, I think, is Wilmslow have 1 bonus point. I think one of their defeats they finished within 4. Just looking at their playing records, they've both played similar sides, but not quite the same. Their opening 4 matches have all included 3 against some of the teams in the top 5. So they've both had pretty ropey starts. So this game could really go any way. You have to fancy the home side. Travelling's always difficult in the regional leagues, and it'll be no different for Douglas tomorrow. Kick-off time, I think, is at 2 o'clock over there at Wilmslow. They've got a reasonable chance, playing records virtually the same. Douglas have got a little bit of a more leaky defence, but I don't think there's too much in that either. And they've had a bit of an injury list for the last couple of weeks now. We know Simon Hodgenot's hamstring's not quite right yet. We did hear a whisper that Luke Hyland, Aidan O'Shea and Harry Hewson could be set to return from injury, which will give Douglas some additional options in the back line. Front row were going reasonably well anyway. Owen Carvin's putting in a great shift. Rob Todd on the tight head, and the youngster Connor Garland in at hooker. So, the front row's been going okay. So Simon's missing is probably just for his bulk and his nous around the field. It's going to be a toughie, but I think Douglas have got a reasonable prospect of going there and picking up at least a bonus point, maybe a try bonus point, losing bonus point. But depending on the condition of the pitch, there's always an opportunity for them maybe to sneak an away win as well. But we've got our fingers crossed for them. On the east side of Manchester, Vagabonds face Duckenfield, and this is a little bit more of a daunting task. Vaggers in their opening game were away at Bury, who were fancied for the title, and Duckenfield upset the apple cart last week. They beat Bury at Bury. So Vagabonds are going to have their backs up against the wall a little bit here. They lost at Bury, they lost at home against New Brighton last week, and I don't see that there's any options for them in the squad that's going to help improve that. Some good performances last week, Vaggers, despite the scoreline. The scrummage went really well. For most of the game, it was dominant. So that front row of Joe Lowe, Matt Rockwell and Mitch Wells, they did a great job last week. Cal Donnell in the back line looked very good. The problem was there was only one of them, and he couldn't get him enough ball to really do any damage. He did score a try early on. He looked pretty classy throughout the rest of the game, but he was a little bit on his own. So I think the rest of the team need to knuckle down, and if they can all work hard together to the same sort of standard that those 4 guys I've mentioned played last week, they'll be in with a shout of picking up something. But it does look like Duckenfield, which is a tough place to go at the best of times, it does look like they could be at the beginning of a little roll here with that win against Bury. So I don't think Vaggers are going to prosper. Back at home, we've got Cheshire Bowl action at the Mirrock Park. The kick-off currently set for 3 o'clock. If there's any changes to that, and there's been some rumours behind the scenes, we might see something. If there's any change to that, we'll try and get you the details. Ramsey, solid warm-up last week against Caldy. They're away, missing a few players. Those players aren't coming back. I think it's just Rory Nicholson who's available this week. He's going to go into the front row for Ramsey. Mihal Flynn will drop to the bench. And the second row pairing that they wanted up there at the Mirrock Park of Josh Curtin and Eddie Lord, they're both still out with injury, so neither of them will play. It's going to be Jack Roberts in the second row, partnering up with Jared May. The back line pretty much unchanged, but Ramsey will be missing Kieran Neal. His space going to be filled by Brandon Atchison. Connor Casey's going to come in at fullback, and Ivo Murray comes onto the wing. So the Nomads, they're playing that game. Well, Nomads played a Greens versus Whites a couple of weeks ago as a warm-up. 4 tries from Will Tazier. I think there was 2 from George Colster, 2 from Alex Long. Alex Long's been kicking well. Tony Quinn's also there in the back line, the youngster who did so well last season. So that Nomads back line is going to be a little bit of a tough prospect for Ramsey up at the Mirrock Park. Difficult to say which way that one will go, but we'll be featuring it for Saturday Live, irrespective of when it kicks off. In addition to that, there are 2 games in the Ravenscroft Manx Bowl. Ramsey and Southern Nomads second teams, the Whites versus the Blues. They're scheduled at the moment for kicking off at 1:30. But that may change. That may be a postponement for that one. The other game in the Ravenscroft Manx Shield is Paulson Park. Castletown take on the Eastern Barbarians. They've met once already in week 1. Barbarians won 61-12 last time out. Castletown will want to do a little bit better on home ground. A little bit of a smaller pitch might just suit them down there.
Manx Radio Sport.
Dave Christian with that report there, and actually just in the last couple of minutes, Dave Christian has confirmed that Ramsey Blues versus Nomads Whites has actually been postponed. So if you missed that, Ramsey Blues versus Nomads Whites this weekend has been postponed, but the 2 first teams remain a 3 o'clock kickoff. That's the message through in the last couple of minutes. Well, rounding things off tonight, it's now week 4 of the mixed hockey season on Ireland, and the latest round of fixtures awaits once again this Saturday. In the mixed Premier League, 2 old foes will collide in what's always a highly anticipated battle as part of what will be yet another intriguing set of fixtures across the divisions. Ben Cunningham spoke to me this week to give his thoughts on what's coming up. So we now go into the latest set of fixtures in the mixed hockey season. Let's start with the Rossborough Mixed Premier League. The early pushback is at 12:35, and that's Vikings B, and they take on Backers Mixed 2.
Yep, so that's Backers B and Vikings B, so that'll be a really close game. Both B teams have had a pretty good season so far. I mean, Vikings have been very unfortunate with some of their results, but they have put in a strong performance. But Backers have looked very strong, although they did lose out last week to Valkyries. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes, but it'll be a close game for sure.
Well, we've got 3 games in the Mixed Premier League, all pushing back at 2:05, and the first one here, it's a big one. It's Vikings A versus Backers A.
Yeah, big one, this one. Always very high quality of hockey in this one. Very intense game, but this could go either way. I mean, Vikings have been scoring goals for fun so far this season. Backers have as well, but Vikings A have got more goals on the table so far, but I really couldn't put a winner on this, but it'll be very close. It might maybe just come down to one mistake, and that could be the deciding moment in the game.
And then up to the north of the island, and this could be an intriguing one as well at 2:05, Ramsey A against Castletown Celts.
Yeah, Castletown Celts have had a really good season so far. Ramsey haven't had the best of seasons, but they did hold Backers A last week at half-time to 1-1. So, I mean, there is signs that Ramsey could be a slow start, but they've now got players back maybe from injury or that. But, you know, Ramsey A have really proven that they are not going to give up just yet. But Castletown Celts have looked very strong, but I think it'll be a Castletown Celts win for that one.
And the other game at 2:05, it's an intra-club derby out in the west. It's Valkyries B versus Valkyries A at QE2.
Inter-club derby, Valkyries A scoring goals for fun. Valkyries B, they'll be wishing they could maybe get one over their A team, but their A team have looked very strong this season. I mean, one of their players already got 10 goals in, I think, this is week 4, and he's already got 10 goals to his name. So, it's going to be hard to stop Valkyries A.
Before we move on, I have a feeling what your answer's going to be here, but in terms of the Premier League specifically, what's the game to look out for?
It's going to have to be that Vikings A, Backers A game. I mean, if you're looking for something to do Saturday afternoon, 2:05, NSC, get down there, because it'll be a really close game.
Let's move on then, and let's have a quick look through the other divisions playing this Saturday. We have 3 games in the Rossborough Mixed Division 1.
Yep, so we've got at 11:05, Backers C against Harlequins A. 12:30 at QE2, we have Valkyries C against Vikings C. And then at 3:35 at Peel, we have Vikings D against Castletown Southerners.
And then 3 games as well in the Rossborough Mixed Division 2.
Yep, so 12:35 we've got Ramsey Rookies against Valkyries D. 2:05 at Castletown we have Vikings E against Castletown Cushacks. At 3:35 we have Castletown Camacks against Ramsey Ravens, and that's also at Castletown.
And then we move on to Rossborough Mixed Division 3. 3 games there as well.
Yep, so 11:05 at Peel we have Harlequins B against Backers Colts. Then at 12:35 at King William's College we have Harlequins C against Valkyries Colts. And then at 12:30 at Castle Rushen we have Castletown Cosney against Backers D.
So out of the other 3 senior leagues you saw there, are there any games in particular that have caught your eye this weekend?
To be honest with you, a lot of them are very close games, but in Div 3, the Harlequins B against Backers Colts, I think will be interesting. Backers Colts have looked really strong this season, and also Harlequins B have as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out.
And then last but certainly not least, we have 3 games in the Rossborough Mixed Under-15s this weekend.
So we have Vikings against Castletown Savers at 11:05 at Castletown. Backers against Castletown Sharks at the NSC at 3:30. And then we have Harlequins against Ramsey Rogues and Rascals at Ramsey Grammar School.
Manx Radio Sport.
Ben Cunningham with that report there. That's all we have time for this evening, so many thanks to my guests again this week. Tony Mepham, Dave Christian and Ben Cunningham. Sam Spooner's up with you next, but from me, until next time, it's bye for now. Have a very good evening.